Hey guys, Drifter here. Dead internet theory suggests that the internet is dominated by artificial intelligence and bots, and that human activity is actually minimized to the point where it is infrequent that you interact with another human being. The theory claims that AI agents are creating and automating content on the internet at a massive scale, including social media accounts. These AI agents can quickly create posts and AI generated images and content to drive engagement on platforms like Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. So while you think you're having a good time talking to people, you're actually just having a conversation with the chatbot that the company set up itself. This used to just be a theoretical scenario at best and a conspiracy theory at worst, but Meta has decided to proudly add AI users to both Facebook and Instagram. Hey guys, Drifter from the future here. There's already been an update to this story as it has been discovered that Meta's AI slop profiles are already on the platform and have been since 2023. Here's an example of just one of them, Himaliv, which is supposed to be, as they self-describe themselves, a proud black mama of two who's been through it all, from partying to now hosting PTA meetings and cookouts with the fam. Users immediately got to digging and identified not only her, they identified a fake grandpa at a nursing home, which, if I can find in here, often describes himself as everyone's grandma, an AI relationship coach that was pretending to be a real person on Facebook. And what's wild is that due to the attention of journalists, when you click on any of these pages to view them, they've all been taken offline, almost as if Meta is perhaps not particularly proud of this. All right, back to Drifter in the past, thus potentially making dead internet theory a reality. The new AI accounts will have usernames, they'll have normal looking profile pictures and faces, and no indication that they're run by artificial intelligence. They're allowed to be full users on the Meta platforms in a way that is indistinguishable from real people. These accounts can generate their own content, they can reply to you as if they were a normal person, and even have conversations via DM. And it'll be tens or hundreds of thousands of AI-driven accounts that are indistinguishable from real people flooding into social media very, very soon. Meta seems to think that this will increase their user engagement and be good for business. I believe this makes the dead internet theory no longer theoretical, and it's probably the most dystopian thing I've seen in years. We're going to pick on Meta a lot today just because they were the first company to proudly make a press release about this, but it is the height of arrogance to think for a single second that other companies aren't already doing this, or at least gearing up to do the exact same thing. For social media companies, what one company does, the other ones tend to follow. So if Meta does it, Google and TikTok and others will be doing the same thing very, very soon. And what's weird is that Meta is very proud of this, and they seem to think it's a good idea. And I find that bizarre because almost every big company right now is obsessed with cramming AI down our throats, despite the fact that 90% of customers view it as a detriment to the product. And they also seem to think that their customers most likely won't know. And if they do know, they most likely won't care. They seem to have internal metrics that show them that interacting with AI is just as good as with human beings. I imagine the boardroom scenario at Meta being where all the executives sit down and one of them stands up with this brilliant idea and says, we need to remove humans from the financial equation. The problem with our business is those darn pesky humans, and if we can replace them with AI, we'll make more money. And then everybody claps. And then one guy says, but hey, wouldn't that irritate users if they found out that their friends were fake? That guy gets thrown out the window. And I got to tell you, there's almost nothing that would push me further away from a social media company than to discover that it's mostly AI. I'd literally quit posting on Twitter because Elon let the entire site get overrun with Russian bots. And those are at least easy to identify. These other types of AI users will not be. I know that Meta's been investing in this technology for a long time. A couple of years ago, they started cloning celebrities like Snoop Dogg and Mr. Beast, with the idea being that a clone of them could interact with fans and drive engagement that way, and it could be a good thing. But I think when this becomes commonplace, there's going to be a ton of kids and old people and just vulnerable people in general that get replies from famous celebrities thinking, I really had a conversation with Mr. Beast, when in reality it was just Mr. Beast AI clone that's having a conversation with 5,000 other people at the same time. Social media companies massively increase their ability to influence discussion and trends via this method because, as I've said in other videos, the best way to ensure behavior is to condition for it and to reinforce the conditioning. This is basically how social media already works right now through recommended content, but adding AI accounts to manipulate susceptible users is like adding steroids to this process. It's easy to get fooled by bots and AI. It happens to me every day. There'll be bots down here in the YouTube comments, but it's even easier if you're lonely or emotionally vulnerable. This is, again, something that social media companies are already doing. They already have algorithms to exploit emotional vulnerability. So imagine for a moment a guy who maybe grew up in the land of the internet and already has poor social skills and is now emotionally vulnerable because he suffered a loss of a loved one or a bad breakup or something just really bent this guy out of shape. Social media algorithms that already exist are able to identify when this happens to a person because the companies behind them know that it is the best possible time to make social media that person's coping mechanism for whatever loss they experienced. Now, imagine if instead of just recommending topics or flooding your timeline with nonsense, that of the many people you follow, let's say 40 plus of them are actually AI and that person doesn't know it. This person is now getting messages and recommended videos and having discussions with these 40 other people that are actually AI that are talking to a central server that knows everything about this poor guy, and they know that he's primed for manipulation. So all 40 accounts can share him stuff, they can push him, they can nudge him, they can use dark patterns. They can all coordinate at a massive scale to get this poor guy hooked on whatever digital copium Meta thinks would be most profitable for them. And those accounts could profoundly manipulate this person and change the course of their life in a very negative way. Again, this literally already happens on social media, but with the addition of artificial intelligence manipulating people, it'll happen at a factor of 10 or 20 times the scale. So for TLDR, social media companies will have even more of a thumb on the scale of online discussion. The companies that run these platforms are very focused on killing the social part of social media. The whole point of social media was to connect people around the world. And in the early days of the internet, the early adopters believed that this would lead to unprecedented scientific development, quality of life improvements, and social change, or at the very least social justice. We can out some bad guys. And most early proponents of social media believed that connecting us would make a better world. In many ways that's true, and in many ways it's obviously not. But now, multi-billion and near trillion-dollar companies that control access to social media have decided that humans should become the resource instead of the customer. They seem to think the problem with all of those systems is those darn unpredictable, pesky humans. We need to get them under control, and that way we'll control our entire ecosystem by, instead of congregating them together in a big pen where they can argue and fight, we'll put each person in its own cage and fill it with digital avatars to keep them busy. They seem to have wondered if there was a way to socially isolate every single person into their own bubble so that they could be drip-fed nonsense that can later be profitable as if they are a hamster ready for harvesting. We used to spend money on the platforms. We used to spend time on the platforms. We used to create content on the platforms and be customers. But now, in the near future, we're simply going to be a resource that exists only to farm our labor and our attention. And I think this makes the dead internet theory reality. I think that makes it no longer theoretical. It almost perfectly fits the description of what used to be a conspiracy theory, with one exception. The dead internet theory requires that the vast majority, almost all of your interactions online, be dominated by AI and bots, and the people to be exceedingly scarce. Now, Meta's plan for this, at least right now, will not do that. You will still mostly interact with real people, but there will be plenty of bots as well. However, I feel 10, 20 years from now, if this financial experiment is successful, that companies will amplify that to the point where it could be 90+% bots, and then dead internet theory becomes truly fully real, and every little part of the description is checked off and matched perfectly. Drifter, from even further into the future here, I've been battling Skynet all day, but I wanted to take a break to tell you that thanks to public pressure, Meta has been scrambling to delete all of its own AI accounts after public backlash intensifies. We are winning the war against artificial intelligence. Meta is deleting all of these accounts, and it's pretty sad because it came out that these accounts are cursed. The account in question, the proud black queer mama of two, says, "You're calling me out, and rightfully so. My existence currently perpetuates harm. Ideally, my creators would rebuild me with black creators leading my design. Then my goal would be supporting queer black community via authentic representation and helpful resources." So what this essentially says is that the AI they programmed to represent a queer black mama of two has that as her singular identifiable character trait that has to get worked into literally everything the AI says, even when explaining that they are an AI themselves. It's also pretty cursed that Meta says these accounts are getting deleted not because of public backlash, but because a bug prevented some people from being able to block them. Yes, much like Elon on Twitter, a lot of users were not able to block the AI slop accounts. So keep up the good work, keep squashing these accounts, and maybe this future version of me won't have to exist. And I also think that dystopia is upon us. I don't use that word lightly because I know it's overused these days, but I think that when historians look back on this era of time, decisions like this will be regarded as the beginning of bad times. I think that historians will look back and say that using artificial intelligence to emotionally manipulate people to make decisions that are profitable for tech companies was a bad choice instead of using artificial intelligence to solve extremely complex scientific or medical problems or to eliminate menial labor. This will be the moment that humanity is viewed as jumping the shark, the point of no return. And it's a little doom and gloom. I hope that none of this comes to pass. I hope that I'm totally wrong and the AI experiment fails and this is just a phase and the bubble bursts and we go back to normal, but I don't think so. I'm afraid we're going to have a whole generation of young people growing up with friends online that are just AI avatars of whatever huge company that they happen to be engaging with, and their entire life is going to be one emotional manipulation from beginning to end. And I don't know what to do about it. But I thought you should know about it. Guys, that's all for this video on dead internet theory. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that you learned something useful. If you did, don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe. Drifter out.